the peril of chasing pleasure and unchecked desire. Ladies and gentlemen, power does not reside merely in wealth, nor in the domination of others. At its core, power is the sovereign ability to govern oneself. A man who cannot master his desires is already mastered by them. He does not act with reason, nor with strategy, but with impulses, fleeting temptations that promise ecstasy yet deliver only ruin. Throughout history, the men who carved empires and etched their names into stone understood a stark and immutable law. Indulgence is the enemy of discipline, and discipline is the path to greatness. The moment a man surrenders to unbridled lust, he forfeits the very essence of his sovereignty. He ceases to be a king and descends into servitude, enslaved not by chains, but by his own cravings, the erosion of will. Understand this: sexual desire is among the most formidable forces in human nature. It can inspire art, fuel ambition, even stir nations to rise. Yet, when untamed, it becomes a corrosive current that hollows a man's will from within. The more he bathes himself in pleasure, the more insatiable he becomes. What began as a passing indulgence soon hardens into compulsion, a hunger that no feast can satisfy. A man without discipline in his appetites watches his mind, once sharp, cunning, resolute, grow dull and distracted. His noble aspirations wither beneath the weight of immediate gratification. Look to the fates of those who fell to their own desires. Mark Antony, who squandered Rome for Cleopatra. King David, who stained his legacy in pursuit of Bathsheba. These were not weak men, yet their downfall came because they failed to hold the line against themselves. Desire became their master. The snare of manipulation. And there is yet another danger. The man who cannot restrain his hunger becomes prey to those who see his weakness. History brims with warnings. Men who imagined themselves powerful, only to find themselves puppets in the hands of those who understood how to exploit them. Courtesans, seductresses, cunning conspirators, they have toppled kings, drained fortunes, and led once mighty warriors to defeat. A man ruled by lust becomes predictable, pliant, and easily steered. His ambition gives way to appetite. He sacrifices wealth, reputation, even his dignity, chasing the fleeting embrace of a moment's release. His mind, once fixed on conquest and achievement, now bends toward the pursuit of pleasure, and in so doing, he relinquishes everything else. The erosion of masculine strength. Beyond manipulation, consider what unchecked indulgence does to a man's spirit. Throughout history, men have built civilizations, conquered continents, and forged legacies that endured long after their time. Yet these men shared one indispensable trait: discipline. They understood that pleasure was never the prize itself, but a measured reward for victories hard won, a tool to be wielded sparingly, never allowed to govern them. A man who immerses himself ceaselessly in sex, pornography, or the aimless pursuit of women bleeds himself of vitality. His testosterone wanes, his drive dulls, his primal strength, the very force that allows him to shape the world, diminishes. He grows sluggish, indifferent to his higher purpose, content to drift through life on transient pleasures rather than to rise toward lasting achievements. Contrast him with the man who learns to transmute his hunger into discipline. Rather than squandering his energy on frivolous pursuits, he channels his desire into creation, building enterprises, mastering his craft, imprinting his name upon history. Where others scatter themselves chasing fleeting ecstasies, he concentrates himself upon something greater. His ambition becomes sharper than his cravings. His failures, fuel. His hunger, the fire that forges him. The solution, mastery of the self. What then is a man to do? The answer has echoed through the centuries: discipline. Mastery of the self is the foundation of true power. To command one's own desires is to command one's own destiny. This does not mean abstinence for its own sake, nor does it mean living under repression. It means control. A man must learn to transmute his sexual energy, to harness it and direct it toward his higher ambitions. He must set immovable standards, refusing to let temptation steer him, never bowing to cravings that serve no greater purpose. A man's mission must remain at the center of his existence. Woman is not to be his axis. His work, his purpose, his discipline must anchor him. He must train his body, fortify his mind, and temper his spirit. He must turn away from the modern snares of easy pleasure, pornography, meaningless affairs, idle pursuits that waste the currency of his time and energy. Above all, he must see that surrendering himself to indulgence is nothing less than the road to his own undoing. History teaches us this: the human spirit is malleable, and civilization, no matter how grand, is ever at risk of decay. There exists a force, cloaked in the language of progress, freedom, and modernity, whose true aim is to weaken the will, erode self-mastery, and reduce men to slaves of their lowest instincts. I speak, of course, of unrestrained pleasure, especially sexual pleasure, a force that, if left unchecked, threatens to dissolve the very structure of the human soul. In Brave New World, a society is shown where pleasure becomes the quiet engine of control, where freedom is not taken by force, but surrendered willingly in exchange for comfort, distraction, and desire. Those who ruled this world required no whips, no chains, for such tools were unnecessary. Instead, they offered pleasure in abundance, until men no longer hungered for truth, no longer fought for freedom, no longer reached toward greatness. They surrendered to their own appetites and became creatures who lived only for the next fleeting thrill. It is a bitter irony that what we so desperately chase, pleasure, may also be the root of our collapse. Sexual freedom, for instance, is hailed as a victory, and in some measure it is. The liberty to experience one's nature unashamed has its place. But like all freedoms, when exercised without restraint, without higher purpose, without discipline, it ceases to be a gift and becomes a chain. Pleasure, when ungoverned, nourishes passivity. A man consumed by his own desires no longer thinks deeply. He does not confront the eternal questions of existence. He does not challenge power, nor does he seek his own perfection. Instead, he is lulled into a stupor, deceived into believing that his continual gratification equals happiness. Yet there is a vast difference between pleasure and fulfillment, between fleeting delight and true satisfaction. The former is ephemeral, a mirage that vanishes as soon as it is reached, demanding ever more indulgence to sustain. The latter is forged through discipline, struggle, and the pursuit of ideals beyond oneself. A society ruled by unrestrained hedonism cannot but collapse from within. The Romans, at the height of their empire, drowned themselves in every excess, mistaking decadence for prosperity. Their fall was not sudden, but a slow rot. The erosion of discipline, the loss of purpose, the weakening of their moral cup. That same danger looms over our modern civilization, as technology and convenience conspire to bring pleasure to every corner, diminishing the need for self-control, for patience, for wisdom. Consider the modern man, surrounded by images, by stimulation, by an endless parade of distractions. A culture of instant gratification ensures that he need never wait, never endure, never long for anything. But what is a man who does not long? What is a soul that never suffers? In essence, he becomes an empty vessel, shallow, incapable of love. For love requires restraint, sacrifice, and devotion to something higher than desire. Pleasure is not the enemy. Indeed, when it occupies its rightful place, it is a beautiful and even necessary part of life. But it is the thoughtless, unquestioning submission to pleasure that corrodes the essence of a man. To be human is to struggle, to aspire, to seek meaning beyond the narrow confines of mere sensation. We must ask ourselves, will we be creatures of depth and discernment, capable of shaping our own destiny, or merely passive recipients of pleasure, easily manipulated, easily controlled, and in the end, easily discarded? The choice, gentlemen, is ours. Yet we must remember this: history is unkind to civilizations that succumb to the sweet poison of excess. They become relics, cautionary tales, monuments to what might have been if discipline and wisdom had triumphed over indulgence. The world rewards those who master themselves and punishes those who cannot. Do not become another victim of indulgence. Do not allow fleeting ecstasy to steal your enduring power. Master your desires, govern your impulses, and channel your energy towards something greater. That is how a man becomes powerful. That is how a legacy is forged. We stand in an age of decay,